But playing at Celtic Park with an English club would be absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, they gon' know my name when it drops.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Fergie Time podcast. Today, we will be discussing where Celtic and Rangers would finish in the English Premier League. Anyways, let's begin with Celtic, the 8-time winners of the Scottish Premiership under manager Neil Lennon this season, who genuinely I believe is an average manager. If he was to be in the Premier League, I'd peg him a little below average because I don't believe tactically he's the greatest, but he's still decent, not bad. Anyways, looking through Celtic's team, we start with Edouard. Fantastic young player at the age of 22, a striker in the SPFL that has absolutely been dominant. This season, in 18 matches, he scored 14 goals and tallied 5 assists and has kept this production similar in the Europa League. He's fantastic, very quick, gets him behind, crafty striker, and he's found the back of the net consistently. Transition him to the Premier League and I think he would be relatively successful. A very good player and someone in the future who's going to continue to add to that Celtic side. Moving on, Callum McGregor, a central defensive mid, but still has the ability to distribute in the final third. He is a destroyer. He is a fantastic distributor of the ball, but he can also find the back of the net as well. And he is just an all-around great player. He protects that back line, the back four of Celtic. He's another fantastic player who's on the younger side as well, only at age 26. So another player who I think would help Celtic make that transition to the English Premier League. Next, we move on to Ryan Christie. He is a central attacking midfielder, and in 17 matches this season with Celtic, he's scored 10 goals and tallied 6 assists, right? A fantastic attacking player, plays in behind as a 10, the best 10 in the Scottish Premiership in my opinion. And moving into the Premier League, I think he would be a fantastic player because he has a knack for the final third. He can pick out passes or go and score on his own, and I think that's what makes him so special, right? Because when he gets behind a striker like Edouard, he can create his own but also distribute from that position as well. And having him there gives Celtic so many opportunities because, right, he's just such a creative player and someone who, again, I think would transition well to the Premier League. Next, that leaves us with James Forrest, who's a winger, 28 years old, and he's a good player as well. This season, 20 matches, I think roughly 8 goals, 9 assists. Another really tricky, quick, he's small but tricky and quick, wide player who can cut inside, who can do damage 1v1. Another player, I believe, that is Premier League quality for sure and would excel in the Premier League, because we have to put that in perspective, looking at it from the English Premier League and seeing how these players would do there. That leaves me off with Christophe Ajer, 21-year-old center back, who, because of his performances at Celtic, has been getting talked about from the likes of bigger clubs like even the Leicesters of the world. Bigger clubs in the Premier League, English Premier League, have been interested in this kid. He's only 21, and he's a fantastic center back on the ball. Like I said, attracted the attention of big clubs and would no doubt be a great young asset in their back line and a leader moving forward for Celtic, say they were in the English Premier League. So, on top of this, I want to say, I know all these guys, they've been successful, or some of the top players in the Scottish Premiership, right? But people will say in this video, I'm not saying this is true, but people will say,
oh, it's the Scottish Premiership, you can't really trust that as a source of how good these players will be.
So, if you want to make that argument, let's look at what Celtic has done in the Europa League this year. And looking at it, they won their group, a group that contained a team like Lazio, who's a fantastic Italian side, and Celtic won their group pretty handily. So, you can only beat the competition that's been in front of you, and I think it's fair to say Celtic have done that in every level, whether it's Scottish football or whether we're talking Europa League football. So, Celtic, where do I peg them if they were to transition to the Premier League? Well, I'm looking at the Premier League table, and it's hard to say. I don't think they would compete with the top 6 as of right now, just because they haven't been spending in terms of the transfer market as much as they had been in previous years. But I would say a team like Wolves is very similar to them in that Wolves has achieved a lot of success in the Premier League and now is in the Europa League achieving that success as well. Celtic and Wolves are probably on a pretty similar level. So, because of that, I would put Celtic one position below Wolves, and 8th position in the English Premier League. That makes the most sense to me. I don't think they're quite as good as Wolves in terms of the quality of players they have, and the manager, I don't think Lennon is as good as Nuno is, but I think that with the talent they already have, if they added a couple pieces, I think a transition to the English Premier League for Celtic, especially considering, like Wolves, playing at Celtic Park for English clubs if they were to come there. This is all hypothetical, remember. But playing at Celtic Park with an English club would be absolutely dreadful for those clubs. It would be one of the hardest away matches in the whole of the league if they were in it. So I think that factors into it, and because of that, I had them 8th, which is currently above a club like Arsenal down in 10th, and I think is very fitting. And if they were to add more players, add more transfers in the summer or the winter, I believe they could move and become almost a top 6 club, because Celtic are such a big club. There's no ceiling for a club like Celtic because they are so big and so strong and have such a rich history. So I have Celtic in 8th position. Moving on to Rangers now, right? I think Rangers lack some of the quality that Celtic have. I don't think they're quite as good player for player, but there are major areas where Rangers, I believe, are better. Rangers have a manager who I think would transition fantastically to the Premier League, and that is Steven Gerrard. He's done it with Liverpool over years in his playing career. He knows what the Premier League takes, and he has come into Rangers and made a major impact, and I think is a much better manager than Lennon long term. Anyways, looking at some of the players that Rangers have, Alfredo Morales sticks out right away. A young Colombian player, 23 years old. This season, 18 matches played, 12 goals, 1 assist. He's pacey, strong on the ball, and just powerful, a powerful athlete. Fantastic forward, good finisher. He's a player that I don't know if Rangers will be able to hold on to long term, but if they can, he's a major asset for them going forward. And I think, in my opinion, the best player on their team. Another player that I'm looking at from Rangers, who's a fantastic player and would be a very strong Premier League player, James Tavernier. He's a right back, 28 years old, and he is the definition of a modern day fullback. When we are talking modern day fullbacks, James Tavernier, in the 2018-2019 Scottish Premiership, James Tavernier, he had 14 goals and 14 assists, and I believe 37 matches in that Scottish Premiership from right back. That is impressive from a fullback. Like, that is the definition of a modern day fullback, and he has time and time again shown that he can get up the pitch and get involved in the attack, and he has that end product that many fullbacks don't have. He's fantastic crossing the ball, good finisher of the ball. His one weak point is his defense a bit, but still another player who I believe would be genuinely probably one of the better fullbacks in the English Premier League. So, moving on. We have Tavernier, we have Morales so far. Callum McGregor, and many of you may be rolling your eyes. I know he is a goalkeeper. He is 37, but he is a very good goalkeeper, and we've seen some of his best years recently at Rangers. This season, he has a clean sheet percentage of 55%, best in the Scottish League, and he has really led that backline of Rangers to success. He is an authority figure in the backline who commands them and helps that Rangers side be one of the best defensive teams in the Scottish League. So I think McGregor needs to be given a shout as another player who I think would transition seamlessly to the English Premier League. Finally, we have Ryan Kent, an English winger, left winger, who in 12 matches this season has 5 goals and 1 assist. And he's only 23 years old, and I think we've yet to see the best from this kid because he is so young. And I believe if he were to make that transition, he's quick, he's pacey, and I think would be another player who would have no problem transitioning and being a very dominant player in the English Premier League. And when you have someone like Gerrard with these players, I think Rangers, like I said, a little less talented, but with this group of players they have, they would be fantastic because Gerrard is such a disciplined manager and someone they seem to buy into so well. So, let's talk about now where Rangers finished in the Europa League. How did they do this year? Well, so far in the group stage, they finished in second to their group to Porto. So Porto is one of the better teams in the Europa League, I would argue. So I think that's a fair finish for Rangers. I believe they're not quite as strong as Celtic, but because some of the intangibles like managers, their players, just the system they're buying into right now and the grit they're showing, I believe that's why they're holding that same level as Celtic. And good performance in the Europa League. In the Premier League, I think quality is really important and talent is really important. My prediction for Rangers in the English Premier League, they would finish in 11th. Just to put that in perspective, that would only be, right now in this table, 3 points off Celtic. So I'm not saying it would be a major drop. I'd say they'd roughly be on the same level, but just because the importance of talent and quality, I would put Rangers just slightly below in 11th. And that would be below Arsenal, below Southampton, but then it would be Rangers. And I think that's very fitting for how they're playing this year, and they've been fantastic. And like, Rangers is a team that's on the comeback from financial issues they had previously, and they've had to climb all these leagues. And I think it's a team that's only going to be getting better going forward. And I think another team like Celtic, if they were to be in the English Premier League theoretically, that with a couple more summers and signing players and with more success will only continue to get better and could be a team that would finish in 6th to 8th in the English Premier League consistently once they were able to establish that. So, just to break it down again, I had Celtic in the English Premier League. In my opinion, they would finish roughly 8th. And then Rangers finishing in the English Premier League roughly 11th. Both would be fantastic sides. I think the Scottish Premiership is often discounted, and there's so much more talent than people give it credit. It is a fantastic league to watch, a fun league to watch. And yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of where I put both teams. Am I right? Am I wrong? Please let me know. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at the Fergie Time Podcast. Subscribe. Turn on post notifications. It's been your boy Aiden Ferguson. Thank you and take it easy. Peace.